Good morning, everyone. Today is Rosh Chodesh Elul, and the Baal Shem Tov gives a beautiful metaphor. He says that during the year the king is in the palace, and it's very difficult to get an appointment to meet the king. But there's once a year that the king goes out into the countryside. Melech Basadeh, the king is in the field, and he goes out to greet all the people of his country, and all of the citizens could approach. All of the people could approach the royal carriage and ask for anything they want for the king. And the king smiles at everyone and grants them their requests. And so too, the Baal Shem Tov says that this is the month of Elul. Ani l'dodi v'dodi li. I am unto my beloved is unto me. And God is available and accessible to hear all of our prayers and all of our requests and grants it to us because the 13 attributes of divine mercy are radiating during this month. But perhaps there's another element to this parable, and that is the king. You see, this week's Torah portion talks about a Jewish king, and it says that the king has to have 2 Torah scrolls. One Torah scroll he carried with him wherever he went to remain humble and loyal to the Torah. But the second Torah remained in the palace. We are in the palace, in his treasury. And the reason why the king needed these 2 Torahs was because perhaps the Torah that he traveled with constantly over time through wear and tear would become a little bit faded, or some of the letters would be missing. And therefore from time to time the king has to go back and check his Torah with the original copy that's in his treasury to make sure that the Torah remains intact. And the metaphor for all of us is that all of us have dreams and goals and aspirations and ideals and values that we envision for our life. But sometimes over the course of time, some of our dreams could become eroded, some of our ideals could become faded, and sometimes we could lower our expectations and our standards and our desires for greatness. And therefore, the month of Elul, like the king in the field, we have to learn from the king. And we have to then go and examine our deeds and examine our lifestyle and examine our actions and say, is this what I dreamt of? Is this the life I dreamt to live? The type of marriage, the type of family, the type of home, the type of dedication to Torah and mitzvot and Judaism, and make sure that we're living up to our own expectations and ideals. And if not, it's time to rewrite, to correct, to repair, and to elevate. This morning I went to some of the Shivah homes of the 6 beautiful souls that were tragically murdered by Hamas in captivity. And I went to the Shivah of a young man by the name of Uri Danino. Uri was abducted, taken hostage on October 7th and murdered together with the other 5 hostages this Shabbat, and spoke to his father, and his father was telling me what a wonderful son he was and what a wonderful human being he was, and how he was at the Nova Festival, and when the terrorists invaded he managed to escape and he got to his car, and then he said to himself, how can I leave when there are other people being shot at? And so from his place of safety he returned to go rescue others. And he found a brother and a sister, Itai and Maya Regev. And he said, come with me. And he got them back into his car and started to drive away. And that's when the terrorists caught them and took all 3 of them into captivity. And in November, within a few days of each other, the brother and the sister, Maya and Itai Regev, were freed in the exchange and came back to Israel. And his son, his beautiful boy, Uri, which Uri means light, Danino, was murdered by Hamas this Shabbat. And the father and the mother are sitting there brokenhearted. But I said, what message could I take back to Palm Beach, to our community? I told him where I'm from. And he said the following words. He says, my son didn't hesitate to go back to rescue other Jews, because he said, how can I go free if others are being shot at? He said he had Ahavat Yisrael, tremendous love for his fellow Jews. And he told me that at the funeral, he said, my son was not religious, and I am religious. He said there were a lot of religious people at the funeral, and at the same time there were all of his friends with ponytails, with piercings, with tattoos. And we all stood and hugged and kissed and cried together, religious and secular. And he said if we could go to a funerals together and we can cry together, and surely we could live together as a Jewish nation. And therefore he said the following words to me. He said, tell the people in your community, when you do a kindness for someone you know, that's not real kindness, because you know him, he's your friend. He says it's doing kindness for strangers like my son. He didn't know those people he went back to rescue. He just went back to rescue others, and he risked his life and ultimately sacrificed his life. Let us remember each and every one of them, including Uri Danino, and try to walk in their footsteps and live by the values that they inspired us to live our lives by, in their memory, to carry on their legacy. Have a meaningful day.